Like our nice MC already mentioned, I would like to continue on Scott's story and bring you back to Vietnam. Okay, Scott already shared with us how LinkedIn has implemented the strategy on diversity, inclusion, and belongings, and then also, you know, that would be quite wide topics. I would like to narrow down and also would like to share with you some snapshot from our survey addressing the current situation of diversity, but in gender in Vietnam now. So that, you know, like Scott mentioned, if we want to fix it, first of all, we need to know where we are now, right? Probably in each organizations, you have your own issues and your own strengths when it comes to gender diversity. But our report would cover the general information from the Vietnam market. Many people also ask me, what does it mean, you know, why I want to talk about, you know, LIFT and the net will appear? Well, I will explain to you later at the later part of my presentation. So just a quick introduction about this report. The report actually we conducted in March and April, and we sent out the questionnaires to our database held by Navigos Group, you know, managed by our two brands, Vietnam Works and Navigos Search. And 80% of the respondents were female, and they are, you know, the respondents are also keeping the senior positions in the management team in the companies. Now, what we are, we want to understand is that, okay, diversity, especially gender diversity, has become a very hot topic nowadays, but how it has been addressed here in Vietnam. And first and foremost, is it useful? Why do we need gender diversity? And from our report, we have seen that, you know, the respondents in our survey, they all share and the benefits of having gender diversity in their companies. And these are the top 4 reasons why we should have gender diversity in our organizations. The first and foremost, with the gender diversity in our companies, then the company seems to solve the problems more effectively. And of course, we can also serve and work with more diverse group of clients. In terms of recruitment and retention, if we apply gender diversity policies in the companies, we all see that it would be helping the companies to attract, recruit, and retain talents much more effectively. And of course, last but not least, gender diversity would help us to enhance and develop the company's culture very effectively. So these are the reasons why gender diversity is so important. And in Vietnam, it's also quite interesting to find out that the women are very, very hardworking and have ambitions to move up. So why they are so passionate about moving up, about, you know, pursuing higher positions in the organization. Now, we found out that it's not, you know, simply about money or so, or power, but the top 2 reasons why women would love to kind of improve themselves, fight, and get to the higher positions. Number 1 is about the passion. If they have the passion, to the job that they are working now, they would love to contribute more, and they would love to move up more in the organizations. And one thing is actually reminded about my own story as well. The key driver for women to move up to the leadership roles is actually they really love to prove themselves, to prove that they can do whatever men do. Okay, so these are the findings from our survey. And we also found that, you know, if you really want to attract the female talents into your companies, these could be the key things. Give them the opportunities, give them the environments so that they can actually contribute to the success of your organizations using their strengths in skills and knowledge. Okay, so these are the findings that we got from the survey. Now, the reality is that leadership in most of the companies that participating in our survey still have the gender imbalance. Okay, because 68% of the respondents in our survey share that the number of women in the middle and senior level of management in their companies is still below 40%. Wow. So this would be the numbers that we would need to think and try more if we really want to enhance the development of the women in the leadership roles. Now, when we look around the Vietnamese labor market, we can see that we have a lot of women in workforce, right? And I also received a lot of positive comments from the business partners or clients outside of Vietnam, giving the compliment to the Vietnamese women, hardworking attitude, and then lifelong learning behaviors, and so on. So today I just want to focus a little bit more on the women on the top management level. What could be the opportunities for them, and what could be the so-called glass ceiling that stop them from moving up further? Now, let's have a look at the portrait of the women in the leadership roles in Vietnam, who they are, how they look like, right? First of all, we have women presence in the senior levels across the job functions. We, especially in HR and finance, okay? We have quite a number of female HR directors or female CFO in Vietnam. Of course, the number of female managing directors or CEO smaller compared to men. And in terms of the job function, we also found that a lot of females keeping the senior roles in management levels in HR and accounting. Sales and marketing, like Scott just shared in LinkedIn itself, right? In sales and marketing, you have even more females than male, right? But we do not have a lot of females in leadership in other job functions. And here are the opinions from our respondents about the strength and so-called weaknesses for the females in the leadership roles. You can see that females are very good in making decisions, solving problems, strategy executions. But one interesting point is that also relating to the strategy part, right? We found that women seems to be very good in implementing the strategy. But in terms of, in terms of strategy development, creating the strategy, that would be the areas that our respondents share that they think women need to make more improvement on that skill. Okay. So, what would be the path for the women to leadership roles? From the survey, it is quite still sad, you know, to find out that only 13% of the respondents into this survey share that their companies do have the plan to develop women into the higher level. Okay, only 13%. And only 8% share that their companies do put the women development to leadership roles into their top 10 priorities in the companies. So meaning that the plan, the formal and the structured way to develop women into the higher roles is still not considered very, very carefully and seriously among the organizations in Vietnam. And again, in terms of support for women to grow up in their leadership roles, only 4% of companies having the training policies specifically for women to grow up in their leadership. So that is the situation that we have here. But then, you know, I strongly believe that not any organization put up any policy to stop women from moving up. No, I don't think so, right? However, we still have a very small portion of women sitting on the very senior positions in the organizations. In Navigos Search, for example, we are in a business where majority of the workforce is female. And we also have, we're very proud that in the company's management team, we also have a number of directors who are female. However, when it comes to the board meeting, well, I have to share with you my personal feeling, you know, that I feel so lonely in the room that's full of men. And when I sit in the board meeting and, you know, even interpreter, because, you know, my bosses in Japan, they cannot communicate directly in English with me. So we have the interpreter, and the interpreter is also the man. And, you know, when it comes to the country managers meeting, you know, we organize the annual meetings among all the country managers within our Asia Pacific region. And only myself and another ladies from Thailand, the country managers in Thailand, we are the only two women sitting in the all-day meetings with the room full of men. Now, what stopped us? What stopped you from becoming the top leaders in the companies? We are very familiar with the term glass ceiling. So what would be the barriers, the invisible barriers that actually stop us? Something to do with the companies itself, perception, and also, you know, here I want to bring up this statistic first. 87% of the respondents don't think that STEM, manufacturing, construction, would be the suitable areas for female. And today we have a very, very great example that this is wrong, you know. Alison, I would love to hear your story later on. But anyway, this is the general perception, right? And the industry that people think are meant for female, mainly just professional services, like, you know, hospitalities, like big four firms, accounting firms, like Navigos Search, financial services, healthcare, commerce, FMCG is just so little. But then these are the industries that people think, okay, female, you just go for these areas, you know, and this would be the industry for you. And then also, we have the differences between male and females on certain things. Example, women, more male, thinking that women are only suitable for some leadership positions. And also, you know, in the time to become a leader, it is interesting that even ourselves, female, we are thinking that it would take longer time for us to become the leader in comparison to our male colleagues, right? And then also, women ourselves, we also created one unnecessary pressure for us. We think that we need to, we have more pressure from the society and family when we pursue the leadership positions. One thing very simple, right? In Vietnam, when we come across a female CEO, for example, the first question is her family happy? Is he a good wife? Come on, why, right? This would be the pressure that we are afraid and recreated for ourselves as well. And one thing in the workplace, very interesting information that we found out, when we ask about the opinions from our respondents, whether or not they feel that there is a competition in workplace between the two genders, more male thinking about that. You know, 14% of our male respondents say yes to that question in comparison to just 8% of the female. And in terms of, the equal opportunities to grow up the career, then 52% of the women say yes, there is certain differentiation or discrimination when it comes to the opportunities to move up to the next level, compared to only 44% of male thinking that, okay, there are certain discrimination, but overall it's fair for both gender. Giving you these two statistics, I would like to emphasize the fact that, it is male seems to feel more competition in the workplace in comparison to female, and then they feel that the job opportunities is fair for both gender, whereas female does not feel the same way, right? And we all, almost like both genders also agree on one phenomenon in Vietnam actually, that men has more freedom, to take care of their career than women, because women have to have more responsibilities with the family, and they have to bear the have to be accountable for building home, whereas men can, just building house and then they can enjoy the career development for themselves. So that is the general perception of the society that we are facing now. And last but not least, again, women are right now creating more pressure on ourselves. We expect that we have to be a perfect person, and we have to, do everything. We have to be excellent in work, at home, be a great leaders in the office, and then be a great wife, great mother at home, everything. Okay? So, and that creates the pressure for us. And here are the challenges to women in the workplace. And if you really want to nurture your workforce, then these would be the areas that you will need to think about making some improvement. First of all, lack of empowerment to the women to make the decision and to contribute. Lack of promotion opportunities to women. For women, then we have to, think more about how to provide the support for them mentally. So lack of mentors or advisors in the workplace is also another issue. The pressure from work-life balance in today's competitive working environment is also creating a lot of problems or a lot of barriers for women to move up. And the perception on women's role in family, that would be the key barriers for women, right? Now, if that is the overall perception of the society, maybe it would take a lot more time for us to change. However, in the companies, we can always think about, making the baby steps to really enable women to grow up in your organizations. The benefits has been clear, right? That you would have much more benefits if you can balance the workforce and balance the leadership with more both genders. So first thing first, we would need to really serious about making some progress on that, because right now it's like the 50-50% for the answer whether or not the company is committed to gender diversity in the organizations. So first thing that we would need to do is to get your CEO to buy in with the ideas of having the diversified workforce in the organization and especially in the management. Well, I'm very glad that today we also have a lot of CEOs attending the seminar, and hope that we would be able to make some progress. So we would need to start off, especially in these three areas: building a fair environment, judge the people based on their contribution, their skills, their potentials, rather than thinking about where maybe this lady, she would have the responsibilities with the families, and therefore she might not be able to be a good leader as good as the man, you know. Then accept the difference, okay? And reinforce the culture of inclusion, making sure that everyone is buying in and then engaged and belongs to each other, like Scott shared just now from the experience from LinkedIn. And from our societies, ourselves, we also need to really break the unconscious bias. Look at the people as who they are, what they can do, what their capabilities, rather than, you know, oh, that is the ladies, she would not be able to do that. Or, oh, that is a man, no, he would not be able to fit in this role or this industry. No, don't think about gender when we come to evaluating the people's values. And here's my favorite quote for today. For the ladies in the room, and for anyone who is watching this seminar on Navigos Search fan page, the advice is leap and the net will appear. This saying does not mean that I want you to just close your eyes and jump, you know, and wishing for miracle to happen that someone will help you. No. The key, the true meaning is that for us, if we really want to become the female leaders, don't wait for the companies to build up all kinds of policies to support us. Don't wait until the society accepts us, accept our capabilities, and accept that we are as good as the men. You know, we will have to do first. We will have to jump out, you have the courage to take up the stronger, the more challenging roles in order to prove ourselves. Prove first, and the result will come. And you know, for the safety net, okay, don't just close your eyes and wish that the safety net will come. Because we have to recognize our limitation. We are female. We are not as strong physically as male. So we would need to build up the support system to actually help us to achieve more. So before jumping, please get yourself ready. And I do believe that all the women can do whatever I can do, whatever Alison can do, and we all can be great leaders in the future. Okay? So with that, I would like to close my presentation by a very short video clip to talk about Navigos Search and also summarize the findings from my presentation. Please enjoy it.